Hello everybody. Don't Starve is a game full of wacky and wonderful characters of all sorts of vibrant designs. From a silly-haired scientist to a creature from the marsh, a brass automaton to a demonic imp from another dimension. But before a lot of these characters ended up the way they did, they had to go through quite a few iterations. You may know and love Wilson as he looks today, but did you know he originally looked like this? And before that, even this? In today's video, we'll be going over all of the characters' concepts we know to see the kind of glow-ups they experienced before they ended up being the lovable freaks we all know and love today. Let's dive on in. Before we get started, massive thank you to the Don'tStarveWiki.gg for conglomerating all of the concept art I'll be showing off. Most of the stuff is from decade-old Rhymes with Play streams that are no longer archived, and thanks to the wiki, we're able to gawk at these zany old designs with little hassle. And an equally massive thank you to Kesia for not only drawing the amazing thumbnail you clicked on to get here, but also inspiring this whole video with some amazing art she did the other day. Please go check her out, the links to her are in the description. First of all, we should probably iterate on Wilson a little bit more since we did it in the intro. His design changes were the most drastic, since the character of Wilson was obviously the first one that was designed even before the game itself had found its final art style. Before we had the creepy stage play design that we have today, things could have looked very, very different. There was a time when the game looked more like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and Wilson himself looked way more doughy. At this point in the game, it looked like your hunger rate would actually change how Wilson would look, a mechanic they probably reused for Wolfgang. There was also a time when Wilson looked like a used car salesman with albeit more proper proportions than he had today, but also completely different eyes. A more drastic design was when they looked like these creepy Nightmare Before Christmas vibes, where you can see them experimenting with both pupilless eyes and beady eyes that characters today even still use. Then there was this design, which was pretty out there for Wilson concepts, sporting a completely different demeanour, hunched back, hairy body and big teeth. Hang on, wait a minute, that's the rat. I mean the guy next to it. But eventually, we landed more close to the designs we see nowadays in a fair few pieces of visual design art. None of them are the Wilson we know fully today, but they all share elements from his final design. Overall proportions, his face structure, and even his W-shaped hair started to take form in this era. Mix it all together, and a little while later, we got the Wilson we all know today. And Willow. This was probably the point in design where they started to branch out with other characters, confident in what style to stick towards. This does mean that the next few characters we'll be looking at today don't nearly have as much documented conceptual phases as Wilson. But I think that's okay. It's fun to see how we went from this, to this, and to this. Enough about Wilson though. The core group of survivors from original Don't Starve really don't have many concepts for us to go off, sadly. Willow's design seemed to finalise pretty early on, and the early concepts for Wes, Willow, and Wendy seemed to take shape around the same time as well. Except for Wolfgang, who in early concepts and even early builds of the game suffered from even more male pattern baldness than he already did, and WX78, who apparently didn't have a single thought behind those eyes. God bless you. However, we do have more concept art from a very early period in Don't Starve's life, and that was back when even the big bad Maxwell himself was being conceptualized. Before we got the chin that could cut through diamonds and the smirk that could raise the dead, we got this freak. A lot grosser and more monstrous than the one we got today. His design does kind of resemble his appearance in Adventure Mode when he gets all feral and weird, but it's still a far cry from the Maxwell we got today. The design doesn't have the same elegance and refinement Maxwell is seen with nowadays, and makes him look more a bit Scroogey, if you know what I mean. Perhaps that was the point, to be honest. Sadly, this is all the concept art we have found from this era of Don't Starve's lifespan. So it's time we move a little bit further forward in development, to Reign of Giants. Now Reign of Giants does have some nice concept art for the characters, but not a lot for Weber. But considering he is literally just a spider with body and legs, I can't imagine his development being anything too crazy. The same could not be said for Wigfrid, however. Before she was this fiery, red-headed combatant we know today, she started out early in her life as Winnie. Originally stated to be a little Bo Peep style character, Winnie is essentially the antithesis to Wigfrid, a coquette vegetarian style character with a focus on most likely caring for animals. Something Wigfrid wouldn't be caught dead doing, so something absolutely wild probably happened during the time of Reign of Giants development, which led to Winnie becoming Wigfrid and throwing the vegetarianism out for carnism. Honestly, it's kind of comedic just how much her character design flipped almost perfectly from concept. I love her all the same. Also, all of these files I'm showing you right now are also still found in the base game files today and were found long before Wigfrid was added, and even includes voice lines, so you can see how far along Winnie was before Wigfrid was born. As for all the other DLCs besides Reign of Giants, Shipwrecked and Hamlet, there's not really much to go off since the concept art hasn't really surfaced for those expansions as of yet. The only thing really notable is that Woodlegs was originally going to have a skeleton form early on in development that would allow him to turn into Wilton, another formerly unused character, and how Warley did get somewhat of a glow up between single player and together, with an entirely new portrait and adjustment to his chin to make him look approximately 90% more handsome. But there is one more character from those DLCs that did get a lot of changes before he was finalised, and it was good old Wormwood. Originally seen as a replacement for Warbucks, don't worry about him, I've already done a video on that, Wormwood himself did have quite a few designs before we got to the plant we love today. From different silly plant-based heads to really unflattering mushroom designs, one design did get really far enough in development however, and it was this twisting vine pigtail design. So much so that it did end up getting in-game models, voice files, and even shared motifs still seen today with Wormwood's craftables. The bramble traps and bramble husks kinda resemble it a little bit. But as adorable as this design was, it didn't last forever, and eventually we got the green leafy boy we have now. I do kinda miss this old design, and do hope they bring it back as a skin to DST though. Would be really nice. Which segues us perfectly into Don't Starve Together and its wacky selection of characters. We got a lot to go over with this bunch. A lot of the DST cast has publicly shared concept art, since they were all added around when Clay were a lot more open with their live streams and such, and the game's popularity was blooming. This is superb for us because it means more history, and what character to better start off with than Wanda. From her concept art, we can see Clay experimenting a lot with entirely different hairstyles, face shapes, and even skin tones. This piece of concept seems to be done way after they landed on having a character with an aging gimmick, and seems to have finalised her outfit design even before they finalised her face, which is pretty cool. Out of all of the different face shapes and designs here, you can see the one they finally landed on right now, but with a really cute braid design that never ended up being used. When Clay remembers Wanda exists and wants to do a skin for her, I hope they bring this hairstyle back. I can see how it's meant to represent a grandfather clock, it's really cute. Next up, my main, Wart. She doesn't have much concept art to showcase sadly, just some different outfit designs with some resembling what pigmen wear, and different frills for her neck. What I will mention about Wart is that prior to her release, there were quotes referencing a little goat child found in Wortox's quotes, which led a lot of people to assume that the next character before Wart was going to be a goat, which really hammers the whole Wart was a goat child from the Gorge theory way more than it already has been hammered, and probably alludes to how Wart was originally going to be a goat person instead of a merm. Very interesting stuff to think about. Walter was also blessed with a similar concept sheet to Wanda, showing that they got the concept for him to be a young Boy Scout early on, and wanted to experiment a lot with different hairstyles, some of which would remain unused, but some would resurface as skins for Walter. There were also a few different designs with alternative faces and head shapes, and even one with a really cool hairstyle. I'm glad we got the Walter we have now, however, since his silly looking smile face really sells the character a lot better than any of these ever could. Just give me the Josuke hair please, it'll be really cool. And now it's time for the last character we'll be looking at for this video, and I saved the best one for last, Wortox. Oh man, Wortox was added back in DST in 2019, which was, Christ, 6 years ago now, but before that, he was found in the original files of Don't Starve as early as 2012. You know, back when we thought the world was going to end. And let's just say, he looked a little bit different. Yep, this is early Wortox. Before we got a fuzzy, cute red guy, we got a naked demon with his nipples out. A lot more grotesque and gargoyle-like, this Wortox is more akin to a monstrous demon than a cute fluffy imp who happens to eat souls. This is probably because earlier on in Wortox's life, Clay did idealise Wortox as being a character that you'd unlock from exploring the caves, and not one that you would, just pay for. But there was one more revision before we got the modern Wortox, and that was this design. Gone is the weird, almost human-like face, and in was the cute muzzle that he still has now. But he still has his gross sideburns and nipples. This design was actually used for a very long time in the files, and was only actually changed a few months before his actual release. We can prove this because in a teaser image Clay released before Wortox's official announcement as a playable character, you can see a silhouette and it includes his gross sideburns and even more demonic tail, which shows that the design to change to a fully fuzzy imp was done way later in development than we can expect. But boy am I glad that they did that change. Wortox would hit significantly worse if he looked the way he did. Wortox is a very important character for me, since I was excited for this guy being added when he was originally leaked over a decade ago. How time flies. You always deserve him at his best, and to be honest, no one deserves him at his worst. And that is where our journey will wrap up for today. It was fun looking back on these silly freaks. There's probably way more concepts and designs that these characters have, but sadly, they're probably locked away in the Clay archives, only to never see the light of day again. Though if any Clay developers end up seeing this video, please reach out, would love to see more concept art and see how certain characters ended up the way they did. For now, this is all we have to work with, but thank you all so much for watching at home. Do let me know what character designs you think underwent the biggest change down below, and even if you prefer any of the older designs. I know a lot of people still vouch for old Wormwood. Maybe one day. Thanks for watching everybody, take care, bye bye.